Oh my god, you're so shit. You're so... Drop bucket, stop. Play Tri-Slosher, you need help.
Ranked battles used to be my favorite way to play Splatoon. It's the multiplayer option with the most variety, its game modes are the basis of competitive play, and while league battles are probably the ideal option, you aren't always going to have 3 friends in the game at the same time as you. But I don't play ranked very often anymore. Why not? Well, the games themselves are plenty of fun. To me, these game modes are the core of the Splatoon experience, and ranked is probably where most dedicated and experienced players spend the majority of their time. But ranked is also often a source of anguish, frustration, and disappointment for players. The way you progress through the ranks and get matched against other players is far from perfect, and working hard to stay at the top isn't nearly as rewarding as it should be. There's a lot of discussion around ranked, and there are many potential fixes for the issues that different players have. It's a complicated topic, and there's no single correct solution, but I'm gonna try to do my best to explain my opinions and maybe some potential fixes. Let's talk about it. So why do I not like Splatoon 2's ranking system? It largely comes down to 3 things: predictability, progression, and personal improvement. First of all, predictability. While Splatoon 1 had fairly consistent values for points gained and lost after each match, Splatoon 2's X rank uses a 4-digit power level system. This is an altered version of a system called Glicko 2 that was originally designed to rank single players in one-on-one games like chess or traditional fighting games. Splatoon 2 adapts this system to work in a 4v4 setting, and the resulting framework is not the best. To make sure we're all on the same page, let me quickly explain how X rank works. Before every match starts, the game makes a prediction about who will win. The X power of every person on your team is averaged and becomes your team power. The game also averages the power level of every person in the lobby, which is displayed as the 8 squid X power at the bottom left of the screen. If your power level is higher than the enemy team's, the game expects you to win. So if you win, you only get a few points, because the game's expectation lines up with the results, meaning your current power level is accurate to your skill level. If you lose, the game is surprised. In these cases, you might lose a ton of points. You just got beaten by a team with a lower power. That means you shouldn't have as many points as you do, and the game takes them away from you. Looking at it like this, it makes sense. Winning against low power teams isn't as important against winning against high power teams, because your skills aren't being tested as much as they would be against someone of your own skill level. And losing to low power teams is way worse for your rank, because you're supposed to be performing better than them. But the system falls apart when you realize that players want to get better. No one wants to stay at the same X power they got after their placement matches. But climbing this system becomes incredibly difficult when the points gained from winning 10 games can be taken away by a single loss. The important question here is, why are teams with such a large difference in power being paired together in the first place? Well, it seems like Nintendo has designed Splatoon 2 with a smooth player experience in mind, and they want to get you into games quickly so that you don't get bored. The prioritization of matchmaking efficiency over X power accuracy leads to these games where top 500 players are getting into 2100 lobbies. Sometimes there just aren't enough players online, and the game's matchmaking system fails to find a team with a similar power level to yours. Because of this, the point values lost and gained can end up being extremely high or extremely low. For high-level players who get stuck in low-level games, this often means earning very few points for winning and having huge values deducted for losing. It's my understanding that this isn't a big issue when the player base is very large and active, because the game is able to find players similar to your skill level. For example, in Japan, where Splatoon is one of the most popular games, players might not end up facing large point losses nearly as often. But when there are not enough players with high X powers, this system seems to inadvertently punish those most dedicated and skilled at the game. If nearly every match is high risk for little to no reward, what incentive is there to keep playing? At least, that's the way I see it, and to be clear, I am not a high-level player. My best X power was somewhere in the 2300s, and that was an exceptional month for me. But it's difficult to find motivation to grind this system when all the players who have seem to be having a worse experience because of it. Alright, so X rank is unpredictable, and that can make it less fun to grind. But how did that become such a problem? This is where I want to talk about the second major issue: progression. X rank is supposed to be the highest rank in the game for only the best players, but if that's the case, why is there a high enough discrepancy in skill levels to cause this extreme risk for good players? It seems like the problems with X rank aren't actually caused by the X rank system. The real culprit of Splatoon 2's painful matchmaking is the rank meter. The rank meter, or rank bar, is the way the game measures your skill level from C- all the way to S+9, and this system is weird. Unlike Splatoon 1's ranking system, where your progress is displayed clearly through a number that rose and fell predictably as you played games, Splatoon 2 uses this strange ink tank UI that feels a lot more random. But the rank meter isn't random. There's actually a lot that goes into how you gain and lose points, but I'll do my best to summarize the information we have from data mines provided on Wikipedia. Like Splatoon 1, players must earn a rank value of 100 points in order to rank up. This value is represented by the amount of orange ink in the meter, but the exact number is not shown to the player. Unlike Splatoon 1, there is now an additional crack value. This can also be any number between 0 and 100. Whether or not you get a crack after a loss is determined by a whole bunch of variables, including your team's score, your position on your team, how many enemies you splatted, how much turf you inked, and the enemy team's power. That's right, you still have a power level before X rank, you just can't see it. These stats all contribute to your crack value, and you get a crack every time the value hits a multiple of 25. That's why getting 4 cracks, or 100 crack points, breaks the meter completely. A very helpful resource when writing this part of the script was a video by the channel Squid School titled Splatoon 2's ranking system is great actually. I realize that the title of their video seems to contradict the thesis of mine, but I actually agree with many of the points made here, and it was very helpful for understanding how the ranking system works. Definitely check it out if you're interested. It's actually really surprising how different the rank meter system is from X rank, because in X rank, the only things that matter are wins and losses. Your kills, turf, and contributions to the objective are completely disregarded. Now, at first, this seems like an odd choice. There are a ton of factors that go into winning a game of Splatoon, and it often feels like you either carried or got carried by your teammates. If you stay on the zone the whole match, get 20 kills, and end up on top of your team, shouldn't you get more points than your GooTuber who went 1 in 10? Well, maybe, but it's not as easy as it sounds to track an individual player's impact on any given game. I think that video by Squid School makes a really good point here. Many factors such as positioning, zoning pressure, and other ways weapons provide value to their team can't really be tracked through numbers alone. And every weapon contributes in a different way. If kills and assists were counted towards your rank points, certain weapons that are better at killing, aka slayers, would be more greatly rewarded by the ranking system, which wouldn't be fair to anchor or support players. There are so many different ways you can help your team in Splatoon, and it would be extremely difficult to balance a ranking system in a way that measures and weighs these values while being fair to every weapon roll. So in this case, I actually think X rank has the right idea. Again, it's the rank meter that's doing things wrong. The biggest problem with the rank meter though, which in turn causes problems for all of X rank, is that it's not nearly punishing enough. The crack system I described earlier is a really strange way to stop players from facing consequences for failing. Sure, that sounds nice, but a ranking system isn't supposed to be nice. If you want to fairly rank players against one another, you need to sort the players who lose lower than the players who win. In Splatoon 1, your rank points went up when you won, and went down when you lost. But in Splatoon 2, your rank points either go up, or don't move. Why? You lost the match, your ranking should go down. But it doesn't. Splatoon 2 lets you fail again and again and again, and only when you mess up so badly that you manage to get 4 whole cracks does it finally say, okay fine, you don't deserve these points. Except then, it gives you another crutch, the OK line. If you get about a third of the way through a rank, or halfway starting at S rank, you don't even rank down from a shattered bar. Look, I get that a lot of the Splatoon audience is younger. Ranking systems are harsh and can really take a toll on a player's mentality, but you have to give players the hard truth about their skill level, otherwise the rank system is failing its most important job, sorting players based on skill. You can lose a huge percent of the games you play from C- all the way to S+9 and still rank up. It will take you much longer than it would for more skilled players who manage to skip ranks by outperforming those around them, but you'll still get there eventually. That's the failure of the rank meter. It doesn't stop bad players from getting into high ranks, it just lengthens the amount of time it takes to get there. And yeah, there's some logic to that. If you force someone to play more games, they'll get better, right? Well, maybe, or maybe not. They could just keep making the same mistakes, but get carried often enough to pass the OK line and eventually rank up, even with 3 cracks in their meter. You are almost guaranteed to rank up as long as you're dedicated to playing a lot of the game. But that's different than being dedicated to playing well and improving. The rank meter doesn't really make that distinction. Ranking up removes your cracks, effectively forgiving any mistakes you made. In my video about gear, I argued that abilities should be made more accessible so that anyone can make a good build easily. X rank, on the other hand, should not be handed to you on a silver platter, even if you grind for hours and hours. Ranking systems should evaluate the quality of your performance, not just the amount of time you spent playing the game. That's what your level is for. The rank meter is too forgiving of mistakes, and because of this, the players at the top suffer from an inconsistent system that disincentivizes personal improvement by forcing players into unequal matches with harsh punishments for small mistakes. So that's why I think Splatoon 2's ranking system is flawed. The unpredictable nature of matchmaking and the extreme fluctuation of X power, caused largely by a progression system that is too lenient, too unclear, and ineffective. These are likely the issues most people experience when playing ranked, but there's another thing that I don't hear people talk about as much: setting personal goals for improvement. I want to take a second to talk about my own experience with ranked. So far, we've only been looking at Splatoon 2, but as a matter of fact, Splatoon 1 used an entirely different ranking system to sort players into skill brackets, and personally, I prefer it. In Splatoon 1, the rank system was easy to digest. You have a number. If that number reaches 100, you go up a rank. You go up enough ranks, and you get to the end. S plus 99 is the ultimate goal of Splatoon 1. Climbing these ranks is hard, at least for someone of my skill level, but the thing is, it never really felt frustrating. The higher you get, the less points you get for winning, and the more points you lose for each defeat. Sounds familiar, right? But even in S and S+, you'll never see losses as large as 30, 40, or 60 points. Every loss can be repaired with just a few wins. Higher ranks take a decent amount of skill to maintain, but each individual game changes a rank by a reasonable amount. The system is simple, predictable, and most importantly, it presents a clear goal that you can use as motivation to keep playing. This is what is missing in Splatoon 2's ranking system. I didn't see a way to set clear goals for myself as an X-rank player. Many players consider every 100 points to be a sort of benchmark. You'll hear about people grinding for 2500, 2600, 2700, but for me, that's not really enough. Not only do these goals rely on good matchmaking, which is basically luck, but they also suggest that extremely high X power equates to greater personal skill, when really it's often just a case of them spending much more time playing the game. And I'm not trying to downplay the achievements of people who grind solo queue. Reaching a massive X power is impressive. I'm just not personally motivated by this system that feels like a flexing contest between hardcore players. And yeah, obviously, Splatoon is a multiplayer game. Increasing your rank is all about proving that you're more skilled than other players. But playing ranked alone, striving for self-improvement with no in-game communication, it can really feel like a solo journey, and that's what I personally liked about ranked in Splatoon 1. I didn't worry about the power assigned to my opponents, I just played the game and let each individual match decide who was better than who. Whether or not the system was actually better at ranking players is highly debatable. The X-Power system, working optimally, should match you more accurately to players of similar skill. But would it be more fun? I'm not a competitive player, but I do love playing ranked, and I really love the feeling of slow, steady improvement I felt in the first game. Personally, I really enjoyed the process of working my way up the ranks with clear indications of where I was and where I was going. So I'm a bit biased, but I personally have more fun with a system that provides clear guidelines even at the expense of perfectly even games. With X-Rank, there's no end. You just get A power and then, I don't know, get it higher? It's much less clear to me personally what I'm supposed to do with this information. To me, this was an indication of my skill, while this is just some arbitrary number. What constitutes a high power seems to differ with just about every person you ask. There's no unifying scale to determine how skilled players really are. Yes, there is a special indication for players who reach the top 500, but that's not a practical goal for the vast majority of players. While S+ in Splatoon 1 always felt like it was just out of reach, grinding this odd, inconsistent system to raise a 4-digit number just doesn't have the same appeal to me. This is simply my opinion, and I would understand if a lot of people have different views, but looking at the ranking system from the perspective of myself, an individual player fighting faceless online opponents, Splatoon 1's ranking system simply makes the game more enjoyable. Okay, enough with the problems. Let's start talking solutions. Before we get into our new and improved rank system, let's talk about how these games are played outside of the little orange button. It seems like a lot of new players are scared off from trying ranked in the first place, or they think it's only for sweaty players who care too much about being good. And this is really unfortunate because, like I said, these game modes are what Splatoon is for a lot of people. So first things first, free play. Let players experience these game modes without having to worry about a rank. They could easily make it obvious that Turf War is the main casual mode by simply making it the most obvious option on the menu, kinda like Smash Bros. You would pick regular battle, and then any of the 5 game modes. Game mode rotations work pretty well for ranked, but there's no real reason to have them here, so just let people choose these modes whenever they want. This would allow players to become comfortable with the modes before jumping into ranked, and would also provide a more relaxed experience for players who want to have fun in a variety of game types without having to fear the game judging their performance. Next, and honestly more importantly, League Battles. League Battles should be the best way to play Splatoon, teaming up with friends to work together and have fun, while playing against an infinite roster of online opponents. But for some unknown reason, Nintendo decided to lock this mode behind a rank B- requirement. This is quite possibly the worst design decision in all of Splatoon. It literally prevents you from playing the most enjoyable modes with your friends unless you all go and grind the game alone. Remember, a lot of people are intimidated by ranked, and there's no easy alternative unless you have a large enough group of friends to make a private battle. With little understanding of the modes and no real incentive to improve, a decent amount of the Splatoon player base never even makes it to B-, and never experiences League Battles, which again, should be the best way to play the game. From what I can gather, it seems like Nintendo wanted League Battles to feel like competitive play. The game describes League as even more competitive than ranked battles, but your League score goes away after the 2-hour session, so there's way less incentive to try your best than there is playing solo. If players could play league battles from the start, before even reaching level 10 and unlocking ranked, they would have the chance to experience these game modes alongside their friends and work together to figure out the best ways to play. Not only would this allow players to organically develop strategies for each mode, but it would give them the opportunity to learn alongside friends instead of just being thrown in the deep end alone, which is currently the only option. But like I said, there really isn't any incentive to try your best in league battles. Splatoon 1 squad battles were essentially ranked battles with friends, and while they were really fun, I can see why they changed this, as it would allow a player to increase their solo rank while playing with friends, which doesn't really make sense. So instead of that, why not just provide some rewards for the top players? Splatoon 2 already has a system to judge league teams: gold, silver, bronze, and unranked. Why not give snail, ability chunk, and cash rewards to the winners of each tier? Players would be encouraged to play well with the promise of a prize, but unlike ranked, there would be no punishment for just jumping in and having fun. Even a small reward would push players to give their all and add some actual stakes to league battles, giving them an extra sense of tension and excitement. Okay, here it goes. How do we make ranked battles better? To start, let's make sure that our rank system for Splatoon 3 is one that forces players to work smarter, not harder. We want to fix the issues with predictability and progression and encourage personal improvement through understandable goals and benchmarks. The problems many people have with X-Rank would be largely mitigated by a system that raises the bar to entry. Let's not pander to people in lower ranks. No more cracks, no more OK bar. I don't think it's as simple as taking the Splatoon 1 rank system and slapping X-Rank on top of it, but honestly, I think that would be a step in the right direction. So let's picture what that would look like. We're returning to the Splatoon 1 style of points. Clearly communicate to players where they are and how far they need to go in order to improve. I think that when players first enter ranked, they should have to play 10 placement matches so that the system can begin to get a sense of their skill level. These matches will measure values such as objective score, enemies you splatted, and turf inked. Even with a support or anchor weapon, good players will outperform those around them, and this system will help ensure that players with vastly different levels of experience aren't being placed together. The game would then place you somewhere from C- to B+, starting you at the usual 30 points for whatever rank it places you in. Here, you will also be given a power level, just like in Splatoon 2. However, this number will always be visible to you, even before you enter X rank. From this point on, only wins and losses count, and you will need the typical 100 rank points to rank up. Points lost and gained will be similar to what they were in Splatoon 1. However, your power level will fluctuate according to the Splatoon 2 system. The game will match you with people similar to your own power, so you will never lose or gain massive amounts of points. And here, I would remove S+1 through S+9. If you think about it, these ranks don't really serve any purpose beyond forcing players to grind in order to make it all the way to X rank. You still get matched against the same pool of players regardless of what number S+ you are, so these ranks don't require improvement as much as they require patience. They make you work harder but not smarter. I honestly see no need for them, so they're out. It's just C- to S+. And now the difficult part. How do we determine that a player is truly deserving of X rank? The maximum rank in Splatoon 1 was S+99, meaning being S+ and grinding to 99 points. For our purposes though, I honestly think reaching S+99 would be too much to ask of players. We don't want to make X rank so exclusive that players can't even find games. Let's say that if you reach S+ with 50 points, and you have a power level of at least 2000, you will be promoted to X rank. Under the Splatoon 1 system, reaching S+ is an achievement of its own, so I think this is a pretty fair requirement. And only now, once you get all the way up to X rank, does the system rely entirely on your power level. This would function as X rank does currently in Splatoon 2, but with our new progression system in place, reaching X rank would be much more meaningful, and only very skilled players would manage to make it this far. Because of that, the variance in power levels among X rank players would be much lower, and players would not have to worry about losing all of their hard-earned points to a single game. Getting X rank is one thing, but what about keeping it? In Splatoon 2, if your power level is below 2000 at the end of the month, you'll automatically rank down. The only way to lose X rank during the month is to lose a game after dropping below 1900. This is, again, much too lenient. Under our new system, dropping below 2000 at any time would demote you back to S+30. In addition, you will also derank if you fail to finish your 10 placement matches before the end of the month. Being inactive for 30 whole days is definitely going to have an impact on your performance, so your rank should reflect that. Climbing back up wouldn't be too hard, but it would take a bit of effort to keep yourself in the pool of the best players. Lastly, X-Rank players could receive a snail for managing to maintain their position when the month passes over. It could just be one more incentive to encourage players to push themselves to improve and climb the ranks. So there it is, a new rank system that combines Splatoon 1's progression with Splatoon 2's matchmaking. And just to be clear, the reason I still have the system end with X rank, even after being pretty harsh on the idea of X power earlier, is because this system makes maintaining the highest rank an active task. You can't just get to X rank and then never do your placements again. you have to keep working for it. This version of X-Rank encourages players to play consistently and allows them to set goals by comparing monthly calculations and seeing how far they can take their power, knowing that they can rely on consistent gains and losses in their points. And importantly, it makes holding on to X-Rank a goal in and of itself, keeping players motivated to play well lest they drop too low and D-rank. My goal was to suggest a system that would create a better, more rewarding environment for high-level players aiming for the top, as well as people like myself who are less ambitious but would still like a goal to work toward. Phew, that was a lot to talk about. Ranking systems are complicated, but they're also an extremely important tool that encourages players to push themselves and improve at the game. It's really hard to make a rank system that works for everyone. I'm not a game designer, and I don't know how well these ideas would function were they to be implemented, but I know that I would personally find this kind of system much more enjoyable and engaging, and I think it would encourage a lot more players to improve at the game and have tons of fun doing it. Like I said before, ranked battles, for me, are the core of the Splatoon experience. I want as many players as possible to enjoy improving at the game so that we can all have more fun together and push the game to its limits. These are the changes I want to see, but everyone has had their own joys and troubles with the system. Do you want a harsher ranking system, or are you grateful for the safety nets that the rank meter provides? What changes would you suggest to make rank more fun? Let me know what you think. Either way, thanks for watching. If you want to see more from me, you can follow my Twitch for streams and my Twitter for art. With that, this has been Cosmic. Farewell.